India is growing at the fastest pace of any major global economy and should continue to deliver annual GDP growth of 6% over the next few years. With over 1.4 billion people and a workforce reaching a billion by 2030, we're going to talk about what investors should be on the lookout for. We'll break it all down for you right now on UBS Trending. Hello again, everybody, and welcome to UBS Trending. I'm Anthony Pastore. I'm sitting in the studio with Alejo Charwanko, who is the Chief Investment Officer of Emerging Markets for our CIO. Alejo, this India story is really fascinating. You put together a lot of really compelling statistics. I just rattled off that there are almost 1.5 billion people that live in the country now. The workforce is growing, their military is growing, their GDP is growing. What's going on in the country that is really propelling them into the future here?
Absolutely, Anthony. I think that's what's interesting. India is growing. It's a large economy that's growing at 6% year-over-year rate, and this is pushing the country up the global rankings. 10 years ago, India was the 10th largest economy in the world. Today, it is the 5th largest economy in the world. The IMF projects that in 5 years, India is going to be the 3rd largest economy in the world. So that's one element of it. In addition, you have the reality that we're living in a brave new geopolitical world. As you know, the US and China are not getting along very well, and India is a beneficiary in terms of these trends. A lot of foreign direct investment going into the country to try to produce goods and services out of China. To give you just a few examples, Apple, Foxconn, Amazon, just a few companies that have announced multi-billion-dollar investment projects in India in recent weeks.
Yeah, it's also fascinating to hear about the workforce and the growth that it's seeing, and that could increase by 10 million in just a short time. We even here at UBS, we're a global firm. We have a lot of colleagues that work in Mumbai, which is a major hub of commerce. So from a workforce perspective, what does that really mean here, Alejo?
For starters, India is the largest country in the world in terms of population. It became so in 2023, surpassing China for the first time in many, many years. It's important to note that the median age in India is 28 years, a whole 10 years younger than China, for example. And finally, in this context, what you're seeing is over the next 10 years, every year, it is expected that 10 million new folks are going to join the labor force out of India. Historically, more people that are well-trained, relatively healthy, should help propel economic growth forward.
Yeah. Obviously, it takes, that expression, it takes a village, because it's not just one person that's going to make the difference. There has to be better healthcare in place, more jobs available, obviously, to propel the economy forward. And something
it's about human capital,
right?
Not just population.
Exactly. That's something that I know we talk about here in other areas, and that's something that's really important in this growth that you're seeing in India, correct? I mean, that human capital component.
Exactly, yeah. You know, I think the government is investing in improving education, improving healthcare, and so you're going to see better trained people coming into the labor force every year.
So Prime Minister Modi has been in power there for about 10 years, and something that's been happening in that administration is boosting the country's productivity to, like these ambitious economic reforms that are starting to take place. What's your take, and what do you think the possible outcome is if this all falls into place the way that Modi would like it to?
That's right. I think Prime Minister Modi is trying to make it easier to do business in India. And I can give you a few examples of initiatives that have been implemented over the last few years. There's been a tax reform that took place roughly 5 years ago to make it more compelling for economic activity to take place within formal constraints, right? In addition, the country approved the bankruptcy code to make it a bit easier for companies to fail and begin again, right? This is very important for economic flexibility. Finally, I would highlight a new digital payments infrastructure. When you go to India, most transactions are digital, right? And this is found almost everywhere in the country, and it's projected that 1 billion daily transactions will be taken care of through this system by 2026.
That number is massive. And if you look back at China's economic growth, it really was partly propelled by their move to digital there as well. And now almost every person in the country is using their phones for almost every transaction that's possible. And that keeps things obviously more efficient, resources lower. So if India is following in those footsteps, we can certainly see where that could potentially go.
Without a doubt. You're seeing this in many emerging markets that are able to leapfrog old technologies and go directly to the frontier in terms of digital payments. That's one good example.
Yeah, and obviously in your report that you wrote about India, that you even talk about how India currently ranks third in military spending, just behind US and China, when just recently it was up 8th place from 20 years ago. So that's a huge leap in just a short amount of time to become this military power. It's a fascinating story. So let me ask you, Alejo, if you're an investor that's listening to our conversation today, India certainly has relevance, and it's only going to continue to grow in global equity and fixed income markets, as we talk about here. What is the opportunity right now for investors who want to get into EM or who already are in EM in the near term, and maybe even a few years down the road as India's economy continues to grow?
Absolutely. For starters, I'd say India is a great global portfolio diversifier. When you look at the correlation of Indian stocks or bond performance vis-a-vis global stocks or bonds, this is relatively low. So by adding India, this is something that's attractive when you construct a global portfolio. In addition, Indian assets give you exposure to secular growth opportunities. We've been talking about what's going on in India from a GDP, demographic perspective, technological adoption perspective. So look, I think it is a country that's becoming increasingly difficult to ignore, and it's not cheap at the same time, so that's something to take into account. But some exposure to India in this economic, geopolitical environment, I think makes a lot of sense.
And we just showed a chart there that talks about India punching below its weight, quote unquote. As you write, it's very underrepresented in the global economy versus the size of the country. Do you expect that to break out in the next 10 to 20 years?
I think so. It will take time. The reality today is India as an economy is a lot larger than India as a financial market. There's a gap between the economic and geopolitical importance and the size of its asset market. I think this gap will shrink over time, but it's not going to take place from one day to another.
Right, of course. And as you said, there are Fortune 500 companies who are moving a lot of their businesses into India. And I imagine that, once one starts, then two start, then four, and that grows and grows and grows, and you get more corporate presence there, which adds to the job environment, and then obviously it takes off from there, so then it becomes this global superpower that you're predicting here in this report. Anyway, Alejo, great to talk to you about this fascinating topic. We talk about India a lot, but to see where it's headed, according to your research, it's pretty fascinating. Thanks for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Alejo Charwanko from the Chief Investment Office. And you can follow more about what Alejo and his team are writing about on the emerging markets side by following our website, ubs.com/views. And Alejo's recent report entitled Investing in India, a Visual Guide is available there. So make sure to check that out when you have a chance on that Insights page. Plus, you can follow UBS on social media. Also follow our studio at UBS Trending on Instagram. You can find content there that isn't available anywhere else. Plus, we're on all the other platforms, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. And as always, if you have questions about your portfolio or want to speak to someone about it, make sure you're reaching out to your financial advisor. Until next time, I'm Anthony Pastore. Have a great day, everyone. And remember to keep your eyes on what's trending. See you soon.